All right, everyone, we are live. Let me make sure we're broadcasting to YouTube. Okay, let me go to my channel. Yep, I see the live icon, which means we're broadcasting to YouTube. All right, I'm going to go over to my original channel and make an announcement over there. I think there are some science folks over in that subscriber base, and they might want to learn something today. All right. All right. I just made that announcement over there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play my little intro, and then I am going to jump in. We're going to start off with a discussion on quantum computing, and I think that'll serve as a nice jumping off point for wherever today's discussions go, because my guest and whoever else comes, I suspect at least one other person will join us. They're going to teach me and teach all of us today. So I'll be sitting back and just kind of taking notes from them. So I'll see you guys on the other side of the intro. I have a piece from the Washington Post I'm going to read. It's short, and then I'll bring Professor Black Ops up, and then we'll start the party. All right. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. First of all, please like this stream/video. Please share and please subscribe, especially if you're new. If you want to make a donation to the channel, that information is here, but it's also in the description box below. And I just want to start by thanking everyone who has subbed the channel, and everyone who watched my last two offerings. Those were based upon articles from Science Magazine. I recently joined the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And there are reasons why I joined. I won't get into that right now, but as a part of subscribing to that society, you get access to the online version of Science Magazine. So I thought there were some cool things in there. One article involved the Golgi apparatus and protein trafficking. And then the last one I uploaded involved NASA's DART program. I'm not going to try to remember the acronym right now, but basically think about the movies Armageddon and Deep Impact. So I do a lot of things here. One of the main reasons I started this channel was to promote visibility. There aren't enough images of individuals like myself in the mainstream media and pop culture. So I wanted to promote visibility, but also I wanted us to be able to come and talk science. So today we're going to do a little bit of tech. Well, actually, we're going to do a lot of tech. So Professor Black Ops is back, and I suspect some of the other tech guys will come through. But I am going to read an article really quickly that I think will serve as a nice jumping off point to our open tech discussion today. So I get a subscription to the Washington Post. I don't always read it because there isn't always time. But I saw something interesting in the business section today. Sometimes in the business section, you do see technology and science related stories because ultimately everything we create, whether it's in the biological sciences or in the technology sector, it's usually to create something, to create some sort of product for consumption by the general public. So this article was entitled "The Quantum Internet is Just Waiting in the Closet." So I'm not going to read this version. I searched for the online version. This was written by Jeannie Whalen in Chicago. So the online version from the Washington Post has a different title, and it reads as follows. See, the Washington Post, "Democracy Dies in Darkness." That's an interesting subtitle they have there. Chicago scientists are testing an unhackable quantum internet in their basement closet. Okay. I'm going to try to sprint through this as quickly as possible. There are a lot of things said, a lot of things I don't understand, things that Professor Black Ops and whoever else shows up, they could probably help distill out for us. Quantum research at a University of Chicago lab could help prevent hacking and connect a future web of supercomputers. Now, years ago, my mentor told me when he knew that I was into writing and STEM advocacy and those types of things, he said, you need to read up on blockchain and you need to read up on quantum computing. So I did read up on blockchain. I understand blockchain enough to be able to talk about it, but I never set aside the time to study quantum computing. I know it involves quantum particles, but also ones and zeros, but that's the extent of what I know. Anyway, the secret to a more secure and powerful internet, one potentially impossible to hack, might be residing in a basement closet seemingly suited for brooms and mops. The 3-foot wide cubby in the bowels of a University of Chicago laboratory contains a slim rack of hardware discretely firing quantum particles into a fiber optic network. The goal? To use nature's smallest objects to share information under encryption that cannot be broken, and eventually to connect a network of quantum computers capable of Herculean calculations. The modest trappings of Equipment Closet LL211A belie the importance of a project at the forefront of one of the world's hottest technology competitions. The United States, China, and others are vying to harness the bizarre properties of quantum particles to process information in powerful new ways, technology that could confer major economic and national security benefits to the countries that dominate it. So there's a picture of the closet, and I think next to it, that's a picture of the computer systems in the closet or an equivalent closet. Okay. And this article is below in the description box for anyone who wants to have a copy for themselves. Quantum research is so important to the future of the internet that it is drawing new federal funding, including from the recently adopted CHIPS and Science Act. That's because if it pans out, the quantum internet could safeguard financial transactions and healthcare data, prevent identity theft, and stop hostile state hackers in their tracks. Just this past week, three physicists shared the Nobel Prize for quantum research that helped pave the way for this future internet. Quantum research still has plenty of obstacles to overcome before it reaches widespread use, but banks, healthcare companies, and others are starting to run experiments on the quantum internet. Some industries are also tinkering with early stage quantum computers to see whether they might eventually crack problems that current computers can't, such as discovering new pharmaceuticals to treat intractable diseases. Grant Smith, a graduate student at the on the University of Chicago's quantum research team, said it's too soon to imagine all of the potential applications. When people first made the rudimentary internets connecting research level computers in universities and national labs, they couldn't have predicted e-commerce, he said during a recent tour of the university's labs. So these are the individuals discussed in the article here. The study of quantum physics began in the early 20th century when scientists discovered that the universe's tiniest objects, atoms and subatomic particles, behave in ways unlike matter in the large scale world, such as appearing to be in multiple places at the same time. Those discoveries, called the first quantum revolution, led to new technologies such as lasers and the atomic clock. But research is bringing scientists closer to harnessing more of the quantum world's peculiar powers. David Ashwellam, professor at the University of Chicago's Pritzker School of Molecular Engineering and leader of the quantum team, calls this the second quantum revolution. The field is trying to engineer uh, the way nature behaves at its most fundamental level in our world and to exploit these behaviors for new technologies and applications, he said. Existing computers and communication networks store, process, and transmit information by breaking it down into long streams of bits, which are typically electrical or optical pulses representing a 0 or 1. Okay, there are the zeros and the ones. Quantum particles, also known as quantum bits or qubits, can exist as zeros and ones at the same time or in any position between, a flexibility known as superposition. That allows them to process information in new ways. Some physicists compare them to a spinning coin that is simultaneously in the heads and tails state. Quantum bits can also exhibit entanglement, where two or more particles are inextricably linked and mirror one another exactly, even when separated by great physical distance. Albert Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. So that's the picture right there in my hard copy in the Washington Post. So they're in there working on the computer or the computers. The closet hardware connects to a 124-mile optic network running from the university's campus on Chicago's South Side to two federally funded labs in the western suburbs that are collaborating on the research. Argonne National Lab, Argonne National Laboratory and Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory. The team is using photons, which are quantum particles of light, to dispatch encryption keys through the network to see how well they travel through fibers that pass under highways, bridges, and toll booths. Quantum particles are extremely delicate and have the propensity to malfunction at the slightest disturbance, such as vibration or temperature change. So sending them over long real-world distances is tricky. In the university's basement closet, a piece of hardware built by the Japanese company Toshiba emits pairs of entangled photons and sends one from each pair through the network to Argonne, which is 30 miles away in Lamont, Illinois. One encryption key is encoded on a string of photon pairs. Because the pairs are entangled, they are fully in sync with each other. In a sense, you can view them as a single piece of information, Ashwalam said. All right, we're almost done here. When the traveling photons reach Argonne, scientists there measure them and extract the key. Anyone attempting to hack into the network to intercept the key will fail, Ashwalam said, because the laws of quantum mechanics say that any attempt to observe particles in a quantum state automatically alters the particles and destroys the information being transmitted. It also alerts the sender and receiver about the attempted eavesdropping. This is one reason scientists believe the technology holds such promise. There are huge technical difficulties to overcome, but you could argue this could become as important as the tech revolution of the 20th century that gave us the laser and the transistor and atomic clock, and therefore GPS and the internet. Steve Gervin, a physics professor at Yale, said about recent discoveries in quantum technology. In the lab next to the closet, Ashwalam and his colleagues are attempting to develop new devices that will help photons carry information across greater distances. The room is a cramped tangle of millions of dollars of laboratory equipment, lasers, and a photo of Thomas the Tank Engine, because one of the instruments makes a constant chugging noise. It's for, I guess, like comedic value, graduate student Cyrus Zeladon said. One problem they're trying to fix, as the tiny particles of light travel through the network's glass fibers, imperfections in the glass cause the light to attenuate after a certain distance. So the researchers are attempting to develop devices that could catch and store information from the light particles as they travel, and then send the information onward again with a fresh particle, like a photon pony express. Wearing purple latex gloves to avoid damaging the surface, Zeladon held up a tiny circuit board containing two chips of silicon carbide that he and his colleagues are testing as a device to store and control information from quantum bits. Later that day, Zeladon was planning to cool the chips to super low temperatures and examine them under a microscope to look for quantum bits that he had implanted in the chips that he could then manipulate with microwaves into exchanging information with photons. On the other end of the network, on a recent morning, Argonne scientist Joe Harrimans, who was previously Ashwalam's student, apologized for the loud chugging sound also reverberating around his lab. Where was his picture of Thomas the Tank Engine? We attempt to be slightly more professional here, he joked. I think this is the ending. Harrimans and his colleagues are also trying to develop new devices and materials to help photons carry quantum information across greater distances. Synthetic diamonds are one material that holds promise, he said, nodding toward a reactor that was growing diamonds at the glacial pace of nanometers per hour. Federal funding from the National Quantum Initiative Act, passed by Congress and signed by President Donald Trump in 2018, recently helped the lab by a second reactor that will grow diamonds faster. The CHIPS and Science Act, signed by President Biden in August, is providing additional support for research and development that will bolster quantum efforts. In a corner of his lab, Harriman's pointed to a Toshiba machine identical to the one at the University of Chicago. From there, a jumble of colorful wires carries signals to and from the network, which, after leaving the lab, runs in a short loop under a nearby IKEA and Buffalo Wild Wings before shooting out in either direction to the university and Fermilab. Scientists are experimenting with similar test beds in Boston, New York, Maryland, and Arizona. Experimental networks also exist in the Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, and China. The goal is to someday connect all of these test beds via fiber and satellite links into a fledgling quantum internet spanning the United States and eventually the globe. As the network grows, it could ideally be used not only for sending encrypted information, but for connecting quantum computers to raise their processing power the way the cloud does for current computers. The idea of a quantum internet is something that is very much in the process of being born, Smith said, and that's the end. So this article is below in the description box in case you want a copy for yourself. There was a lot said there, some of which I was easily able to understand myself, and some that just kind of went. Whew. So with that, I'm going to minimize this. Well, I'll bring up Professor Black Ops, and then I'll minimize it. Hey, Professor, sorry to keep you waiting like that.
Oh, no problem. I enjoyed the article. I enjoyed the article.
Any okay. So what stood out to me was hacking. This is to guard against hacking, or that's what this will do. I think it's what's going to be. It's going to increase speeds, and it's gonna. Well, they've already started investing in this. The previous president and the current president. But what did you hear in that?
Oh, the same thing I think you brought up is hacking. I think people realize the internet, right, is an economic engine. You do billions and even trillions of dollars on the internet, but people are stealing $100 million and $1 trillion on the internet. So I think security from a government and a nation state, I think, is what they're pushing. What I usually hear, though, is because I'm a conspiracy theorist, is from a military perspective, you don't want people listening on your communications. And the first thing you usually do before you do anything big, and you can chime in on doctors, is the military usually invest in it. They usually fund it. Then it usually fetters down to commercial research. So when I hear stuff like this, and especially government thinking, I always think, okay, what the military is going to do with it? Because most of the time when governments are investing in something, it's usually the military. Then they bring it down to commercial and regular people.
Okay. So how different is this than I know that in my current job, and even here for my Microsoft Outlook email accounts, it has the two-step encryption. Would we still need that type of thing using a virtual proxy network and two-step encryption? Will we still need that for once quantum computing is set up?
I think once they get it fully implemented, no, because the spooky thing is what I do research is you have two particles, even though they're separated by space, they vibrate at the same time. That's what they brought up in the article. So if you got the particle and you put your information in it, it really doesn't need to be connected, right? It says even from far distances, and when somebody's trying to listen, it'll tell you. So I think once they get that part figured out, I don't think you're going to need the VPN and encryption, because if anybody tries to listen in, it's just going to destroy your information, right, and resubmit it. But like the article says, they got a lot of hurdles to get to it. But I think once they get to that, just reading the article and what research I did to it, with that spooky part, right? Even in great distances, if you touch it, I know you touched it, then it's going to resubmit and tear down those information bits.
Okay.
That's my. I'm like you though. I'm fledgling. I'm a novice. I've been reading a little bit too.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I just want to put that out to the audience. Go ahead.
So, from your understanding, they're going to be able to put our information on particles.
Yeah, because really a particle is just 0.1 bit. Remember the spooky bit? It says you can do it in great distances. Then if I listen to it, right, it says I know you listen to it. Then I can destroy, I guess, the information on the in transit, so you couldn't get it. Right. So that was the spooky bit. Remember, he said I can listen in great distances and they vibrate at the same frequency. So if I put an A on this bit, the other bit's automatically going to have an A. Right. But if you try to listen to it, I know it, then I can just destroy that bit in transit.
Okay. I'm going to jump to the bottom because they said something here. I in your last stream, I think you and Engineering Cannabis were talking about the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the cloud is there. I know that it's used for storage.
Yep.
And I know that it's used for sharing things. But I'm going to read this and then maybe you can kind of distill down for us. For those who don't know what the cloud is, the significance of the cloud. So, okay. The goal is to someday connect all of these test beds via fiber and satellite links into a fledgling quantum internet spanning the United States and eventually the globe. As the network grows, it could ideally be used not only for sending encrypted information, but for connecting quantum computers to raise their processing power the way the cloud does for our current computers. Okay.
Yep.
So what does the cloud do for our current computers?
What the cloud did is, and this is a quick example. You know what this is Pets.com in the 80s was a sock puppet. She sell pet food. She had to buy $10 million worth of computers of her own in her data center to get that business off the ground. It failed because she couldn't afford to update it with the next $2 million of cloud. I don't have to do that now. I can go to AWS, Azure, or Microsoft. I can rent the cloud computing infrastructure for what I need, like electricity. So her issue was she needed $10 million for Christmas. She was getting all these orders. After Christmas, I had 10 computers. After Christmas, I only needed 2 computers. But when you buy your own data center, you own 8. But when you rent it from the cloud, I can lease 10. After Christmas, I can lease 1, right? So now I have variable computer power like water, right? So when you have variable cost versus fixed cost in accounting, you want variable cost because you can scale up and scale down as you need it. I used to do work in Silicon Valley. They're not going to let you buy computers because if you fail, they want to give them back. Right. So now I have the electricity power of computers, and that's what cloud is. If I need 1,000 computers for Christmas, I can lease them for a month. If I need 10 the next month, I can give the 900 back because I'm leasing them. So that's what the benefit of the cloud is. Right. I'm leasing computer power like water and electricity in a house.
Okay. So you don't have to have as much
infrastructure. I'm just leasing
on site.
Yeah. Like you lease 4 vans because you're moving, you give them back. You don't have to buy 4 vans, right? So that's the benefit of computing power. I mean, the cloud, from the cloud perspective, I can lease it when I need. And the beautiful thing is they manage them for you. They give you power for them because when you spin up a big data center, the electricity that takes up is phenomenal. Sometimes you got to get extra electricity to your building and step it down. Amazon and Azure and Google handles all that for you. You can just focus on your domain knowledge and what you do best. You don't have to worry about babysitting computers and buying electricity and all of that. They handle that for you. So that's the benefits of the cloud. So for what they're saying is once they get that scale for quantum computing, the cloud will handle that or somebody else will handle that. You as a researcher, you don't care about quantum. You just want to run your particles and your medicine and what you do. You're going to let the quantum computing does all that power. You don't have to worry about that infrastructure.
Okay. So for those watching us, we have a small crowd here. It might grow by a little bit. It might stay where it is. If you have questions or comments or anything about this, feel free to comment on this or ask us questions. Uh, Specifically, since Professor Black Ops, he's more on the tech side than I am. So while he's here, if you have questions or comments, definitely let us know. I Okay, so that's very
Did
good
that
to
make
know.
sense? Did that
Yeah,
make
I
sense?
think so.
Okay.
So you're leasing the computing power and the
Hmm.
storage.
And that's huge. The crazy thing is a lot of people don't realize Amazon did that on a humble 15 years ago and made a $4 billion business. Like you, they spun up all this stuff to Christmas when they were first doing it. Then after Christmas, they had all this extra computer power. Then one of the lieutenants was like, let's lease this out. We're not using it. We done mastered it, scaling up and scale down. Let's lease it out to some small businesses. A lot of people laughed at them. Amazon does not make money selling stuff. They make $4 billion a year selling excess computer power. That's what funds the majority of their business. I did a stream. I think they made 48% of their profits were coming from AWS. It's them renting computer power.
And AWS stands for
Amazon Web Service. That's what they do. So how they rent computer power. And a lot of people don't know that. I did a stream and it broke down. Their biggest money maker is AWS. That funded their book stuff. When you talk about them building warehouses across the United States, that's funded by AWS and excess computer power.
Really.
Go ahead.
So it's not all the products being shipped. It's not all the white trucks driving around. It's the computing component.
Right. Because originally they were losing money on that at first because they were scaling so quick, and Prime, they were letting you order toothpaste and delivering it for free. So the what was paying for that was AWS until they scaled it. So a lot of people don't realize that they made most of their profits was coming from AWS.
Okay. AWS.
Yep.
Okay. Give it to me one more time. That acronym stands for
Amazon Web Service.
Amazon Web Service.
Yeah.
Okay. Engineering Cannabis is here. Now, so again, I'm out of the loop on this aspect. I thought most of their money was coming from delivering us DVDs and T-shirts and all kinds of things.
Well, the problem was it was, but for them to scale up, like we were talking about infrastructure, when you build in warehouses with robots in it, that's a very expensive thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. So they were making money, but they were sinking it in so much. What happened was that infrastructure they built for their delivery system, their robots, and how they move was already there. So for them, it was sunk cost. We got this extra computer power after Christmas. Let's sell it. Right. And they were already using it. Right. So they just gave their expertise to small business. And for them, the infrastructure was already there. They already had the admins. They already had the computer power. So what little extra they needed to do to sell that was so small. Right. So that's why a lot of people don't realize that's why they were killing it in AWS, because they were already doing it.
Okay. Hey, Engineering Cannabis, this is an open tech stream, so the link is there. I wanted to do this so you guys can come up and talk to us about stuff like this. Because I'm not in that sector. Do you know does Amazon, do they have a competitor or competitors who are
yeah.
Who are the competitors?
Well, long story short, they got a 12-year head start, and he laughed. They made so much money, he was surprised people jumped in late. Microsoft jumped in because they're in a big money. When you make $4 billion a year, people are not gonna let you just be in that by yourself. So you got Microsoft, they're number 2 with Azure. They up there, they got their data centers, they up there. Then right behind them was Google. Shout out to Sergey Brin, they're number 3. Then you got Salesforce. He used to actually work for Oracle. Larry Ellison, they're number 2. 4. Rackspace is up there. So they probably got then there's a plethora of small businesses underneath, but that's kind of like the big 4 right there. Then IBM has their quantum data center. That's kind of their specialty. So they have a ton of competitors, but those are probably the big 4.
Okay. And you said Bezos laughed because he had a 12-year head start.
Yeah. A couple of people, Oracle, Larry Ellison, I did a stream on that, is he laughed at him. He thought it was a toy when they first started. He was like, who would invest in somebody else's data center, especially the government? Now the government's moving all their stuff to the cloud. Because when you think about it, especially you were like, why would I give my data to someone else, especially from a federal space? So that means I'm trusting my data to another third-party service. Right. So a lot of people were trying to wrap their head around it. And really, I just really wrapped my head around it 5 years because I do a lot of federal work. But the switch that came on to me, and I laugh, is I was like, and I work with Amazon a lot. They have 2,000 computer security professionals that are very, very good. You have 2. So that's why I tell people their infrastructure is set up for that. They know every government compliance. They work with the government. They done got ATO's authority to operate, meaning audit companies came out there and looked through their data center and signed off on it. They're very, very good at this. You are a mom and pop shop. You suck. So you need to get your stuff up in the cloud because it's going to be much more secure in there.
Okay. I'm going to read this comment from Engineering Cannabis. Once again, Engineering Cannabis, if you're out there and you want to come up and chat with us a little bit, you're welcome to do so. He says, quantum computing gives opportunities to performing mathematical predictions faster, predicting the stock market, GDP, weather conditions, and risk assessment. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Because speed, and we talked about that a little bit before. The security is one part. The speed of quantum computers is probably 100x the way they do the chips and how they do it. So now something that used to take you 30 days to do, you could probably do in 3 minutes, right? So the sheer force of what you can predict. Cracking computers usually is I take a security key, which is 4,000 bytes, and I got to try every combination. With current computers, that could take a year. With quantum computer, I can do that in 3 minutes, right? So now me attacking your computer system, because it's two sides of that. Me securing it is great. Me attacking it is great, right? Because now I got ultimate speed. And a lot of times cracking a computer is speed and the combinations that you can try to break something.
Okay. Hey, Art Newstall, thank you for stopping through. We're just doing an open tech stream, so we're just talking tech. And if you have questions or if anyone wants to come up and talk with us, you're welcome to do so. Okay. So that's quantum computing. That's a little bit on quantum computing. I'm sure there are so many other avenues we could go down with this. Are you familiar with the training individuals will need to get into this?
Well, two is like Engineering Cannabis says, is it's the quantum computer training, which is super, but I think it's all the things that sits on top of it, right? Quantum computing, and he brought it up there, they're gonna make common languages work on quantum computing. Like you can use Python, C#. They're gonna make SDKs, which is software development kits, that's going to run on top of quantum computing. You're not going to have to do anything different. Your stuff's just going to run quicker, right? So there's going to be levels to this. Now, if you want to actually get into designing quantum computing, right, that's a whole different thing, right? Like my man said, you're talking about spooky particles. That's something different, but the stuff that sits on top of quantum computing, I think, well, I know it's just going to be the same SDKs you're using. A lot of the same programming language you're using now is just going to sit on top of quantum computing and just run much faster. So Engineering Cannabis is artificial intelligence and machine learning. This stuff's going to sit on quantum computing and just run much faster, right? So he'll be able to do his inferences much faster, take all this data from machine learning. All this is going to run super quick, right? And just run quicker. So I think there's different levels to that. As a security professional, I think I'll be doing encryption. It's just going to sit on quantum computing. I think most of the same encryption is just going to run on top of it, just run quicker.
Okay. Once again, for those of us watching, if you have any questions or comments, let us know there in the chat. So let's go back to spooky particles. My first time hearing about this was reading this article. What exactly is a spooky particle?
To be honest, I just read about it. My understanding was they took an atom and they split it.
Yes.
When you split an atom, it vibrates. Even though it's split, you can take it around the world. It still has some connections. So if I hit this 2 times, the other atom's going to vibrate it 2 times, right? Because remember, he said it's on great distance when I was reading about it. So that's why they said that's why encryption would be much better, because I don't really need to run wire for a lot of that stuff. It's just something about it being spooky and vibrate at the same part that makes it do that. I think when they talk about fiber, it makes it run smoother and quicker. That's why you want to run it fiber and in glass. But when they talk about splitting atoms, that's just me reading at a high level, Doc. So that's was my understanding of quantum computing at like I said, at that level. But like I said, when I talk usually about quantum computing, I usually just talk about the speed, like he talked about the encryption, and just the 100x fold or 1000x fold with speed. What type of inventions are going to come out of that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We know autonomous driving is going to, you're going to need that type of speed, facial recognition. Then we start talking about mass surveillance and different stuff that with quantum computing, I think that's why those foreign powers will want to get into it, because with that type of speed, you can do phenomenal things from a technology standpoint.
Okay. All right. We're gonna shift gears. I'm gonna ask you what's happening in your the cybersecurity world right now. But before, I want to run something by you.
Mm-hmm.
A week and a half ago, I interviewed a gentleman named Larry King from the STEM News Chronicle, and he's pretty interested in diversity and
Mm-hmm.
let's see, Sphinx. NVA says spooky particles relate
Right.
to quantum entanglement.
Facts. That's what he said on there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sphinxman looks like, looking at your picture, you're in a lab somewhere. You want to come up and talk with us?
Yeah, if you got a little more on quantum entanglement,
Yeah.
join us. I'm out of my depth.
Is right here. You're welcome to join us. Well, Larry King stated that he was of the opinion that, well, he was talking about how the representation minority, well, I'll say minority, I don't know which word to use anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got you.
People of color, see, should I say people of color, melanated people? I don't know.
We got it. Just keep rolling.
But Google is not, they haven't increased their numbers in terms of participation from certain groups.
They're not. Go ahead.
Because he stated that this goes back to the university level, and that it's more profitable for them to get students from overseas because they get paid more to bring those students into their technology programs versus students who are from here.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the problem.
Yeah, no, that's my question. Have you heard of something like that before?
I have, but I don't think that's the problem.
What do you think is?
Well, and I'll chime in on that is, and I was actually on the stream. It kind of hurt my feelings. I was on a stream with a guy, 26, before the billions. Go check out his channel. I graduated in college in 1990. I was the only person in cybersecurity. I mean, I was the only computer science person. Yeah. Gabe A, struggle security, graduated 10 years after me. He was the only one in computer science. It was somebody else. Then it was before the billions graduated 5 years ago. He was the only one. Max the Million was 21, and he was the only person in cyber and computer science and IT in his class. So if I was only one 30 years ago, 2015, we're not gaining anything. We're not increasing our ranks, right? So even if we were available to go to college, there's not enough of us to go available. Now I agree they're going to get foreign students because it's more money, but I don't think that's hurting. We don't have the numbers in IT or science or STEM, period. So I told him, I said, that really hurt my heart. I'm the only one. Then the one young guy he said, I feel alone when I'm in the meetings. I start yelling at him. I'm like, dude, I'm here. Engineering Cannabis is here. Gabe Bay is here. You can reach out to any of us and we're going to help you. I'm the oldest. I'm the godfather. I'm going to make them help you. So you can't never say you alone. I was alone in 1986, man. You can't be 2021 talking about you alone, man. Are you crazy? So for me, that hurt my heart. I mean, so we're not increasing our ranks. He's saying the shit I said 35 years ago. He's alone.
You're saying there's not enough of us going. There's not enough of us pre-college going into that pipeline.
Right. And you chime in. You out there more than me. I taught at community college for 10 years. I usually have 2 black females and maybe 1 black male every other semester. You can't increase your ranks with that small number. Then 2 of those are going to drop out before they graduate out of community college. I'm not even talking about a 4-year college. I'm talking about a 2-year college. So I don't think our ranks are enough. And when I talk to people, I don't see us enough because, and that's something we talk about. STEM is not considered cool. Any movie we in, we got thick glasses. They're taking our girl. They pushing us down the steps. Don't nobody want to be in STEM until they get where you at, Doc, where you make 100,000 and you can get a woman. It's too late now, dude. I done put in work, Claire. So that's my 2 cents. I'm on my soapbox. You got me screaming, Doc.
That's okay.
So that's my 2 cents. I'm on my soapbox. So you can't say it's hurting us when we're not filling the pipeline. It's only 6% of minorities, people of color in tech, and most of those are coming from overseas. So when you talk about FBA or ADOS, it's probably 2% in the pipeline at best. And most people rather do content creation before they try to be a PhD because that's work, Doc. That's hard.
Yeah, so, I can vouch for that.
So I'm pushing back on him. That's a fallacy to me. I got numbers to prove him. That's wrong. The pipeline is not there. And most people think it's boring. When you talk about computer science, very few people think that's enamored. You don't see people walking in with the suit on Boomerang sitting down at the computer. You don't see that. So people don't understand. So I'm trying to make a big push to go into middle school and say, okay, let's get into tech. Let's get into robotics. Let's do something cool. Let's make a driverless car from a robot to get little boys excited. Because we got to get earlier in the pipeline. Because when I look at the pipeline, I could pick the 1 or 2 out there, but you can't lift up a whole community. So when you talk about that argument in college, he's way too late. Now, you got to get that pipeline filled before you get there. Now, a lot of people trying to get in now because it's fashionable on YouTube. Get in cybersecurity and get the $100,000 bag, or I see you with the Porsche and now you're saying IT. But I'm like, dude, it takes work to get there. It's not magic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that perspective. I think.
Chime in if you think I'm wrong. I mean, you out there, the pipeline just seemed non-existent. So when people get to college, I'm like, dude, there's no people. Middle school is small. I talked about my grandson. He get mad. I don't want to do that, Grandpa. I'm like, we doing that, grandson, or no game for you. So I just don't see it at that level.
Okay. Sphinx Man NBA says, if you're talking about Silicon Valley hiring, there's also the role of H-1B visas fulfilling higher needs. I hear you, Professor, because I have 2 degrees in electrical engineering.
Yeah, two is I've been in Silicon Valley, and it's right. And I always take that off the top. And the reason why is I'm a statistic guy. You always take the top 10 and the bottom 10 out. I always think of Silicon Valley as the top 10, so I really never talk about them. I do work out there. But granted, they're pattern matching. They're looking for the next Zuckerberg. They're looking for the next Sergey Brin, a foreign guy who dropped out of an Ivy League school. But that percentage is so small when we talk about lifting. So I put them in the top 10, right? When you do stats, you take off the top 10 and the bottom 10. I put Silicon Valley in the top 10, so I never mention them, right? Because they are pattern matching, but their jobs are so at the top. Facebook fame, you can make 100,000, 300,000. Most people going to do IT at a bank. Most people going to do, I worked at a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical, right? So those are companies that the regular people are going to work at, right? So I don't really mention the fame. I just did an interview with AWS. I didn't get it, but it was a 6-hour interview, right? So they're about that life. But once again, it was for $350,000. I didn't get it. They were going to give me $60,000 a year in restricted stock options, which is great if you get it, but that's the top 3 or 1% of jobs. Most people are not going to get there. And most people, you can make a great living working, doing IT at a regular company or a large mid-sized company, right? So that's why I don't really talk about the FANG and Silicon Valley like that.
Okay. Well, yeah. So you have one argument for they're overlooking homegrown talent because it's more financially lucrative for the universities, and then you suggested that there's just not enough homegrown talent. I'm kind of coming down on the fact that there's not enough homegrown talent. I mean, just based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have kids who are in the Jack and Jills and the who are able to go to those STEM functions and those STEM camps, but the other kids who are not, there are quite a few kids who are not going to get to go to those.
Right, but the cool thing, well, not the cool thing is like you said, Jack and Jill STEM camps are cool. Is I think if there's a kid who was deemed or highlighted to want to do that, I think they could get help, especially with the internet help. There's a lot of boot camps and people giving free courses to help you get in there. I don't think the pipeline is big enough. And I always tell people is one of the blueprints is if you want to get into IT and cybersecurity is go to a 2-year college, stay at home, take your classes online, because there's a lot of electives you need to take. Cybersecurity is usually 42 hours, 39 hours. You need 130 hours to graduate. You could take all that classes in community college. Once you get those taken care of, you can go to a 2-year at a PWI big university, pay for it, come out a lot cheaper, will not have a lot of debt. Then you have your 4-year degree. You could get a boot camp, get your certs while you get your 4-year degree working there. Then you could get in the industry. I always tell people I went to a state school, Indiana State University, not a big school, not super not super known. Once I got my first job, nobody ever asked me where I graduated from. You got a bachelor's of computer science? Why, yes, I do. Do you got a master's degree? Why, yes, I do. Nobody ever asked me where I went, Doc. After my first couple jobs, people, do you got it? What's your experience? So I tell people that's the blueprint. It's cheaper. You can make money and you can get experience while you're working on your 4-year degree, right? You don't have to go to Harvard or Yale or MIT or shout out to you or Michigan, right? Once I got my degree, nobody's ever asked me where I went. Once again, I didn't get the job, but I guess got a job with AWS, the best company in the world. I was handling my own. I just need a little more practice. He told me I need a little more seasoning. He didn't ask me where I went to. He didn't ask me my GPA. He said, what have you done in the past? I said, this is my skill set. This is what I'm good at, right? So when we talk about pipelines and film, I think if we get identified, and two, now you just don't need a degree. A lot of times you can do boot camp certifications. There's a ton of different ways to get in the game. When I graduated in 1986 out of high school, you got to have a college degree, right? I think people are accepting different things because I think the ROI on a college degree, we can debate, is that worth it, right? It depends on what you're majoring in. You can't come out owing $100,000 and making $10 an hour. That doesn't equate anymore, right? So what are you studying? What are you getting? But once again, that's a different stream, different debate.
Okay. Yeah, the fascinating thing, and Mr. King did say that as well, that it isn't 100% about getting the college degree.
Thanks.
It's the certifications count for a lot as well.
Yep.
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think there's a gentleman who comes through every now and then named Ray Alexander. He was very adamant about, just get in certification. You just get the certification. You're not going to get into management, and that's why most of the management positions are held by Asians and
I know where you're going. But too is just piggybacking off my man is, and that's one thing I tell too is once you get your certification, once you get your job will pay for your associate degree. Most job has reimbursement. They want to invest into you because they want to lock you in. My master's degree was paid by employer. I had just had to sign a 2-year, since I was stay for 2 years. It took me 2 years to get my master's degree, so I wasn't going anywhere either, right? So if you get your certs and you get a job, your job will pay for your degree. Right now, we can talk. Do you want to spend the time? Do you want to spend the energy? I tell people, yes, you do, because that's the bar for management, right? So that doesn't mean you have to go into management. I managed and I hated it, but I have a degree. So if I want to go back into it, I can still go into it. Shout out to Gabe. He's got me thinking, because he's in management. He goes, well, how are we going to hire people of color if we're not in management? I go, oh, that was a good point, Gabe. I got to think about that, right? But go ahead, Doc.
Hey, Gabe, we're just up here talking tech. Right now, we kind of segued into more of the career aspects. If you want to come up and talk with us, and we're just going to see where this goes for a little while, you're welcome to come up. Speak of him, and he shall arrive. Ray Alexander.
Yeah. So I agree with both of those. Like I said, it's just where you want to go and where you want to be. I would just tell people, just get as many credentials as you're comfortable with getting, because when you need them, you want to have them, and not have them, you don't want to need them. So
yeah. Professor Black Ops, you just mentioned something very interesting, because I pondered this myself. You said you were in management and you didn't like it?
I hated it. Well,
Why?
My first team was good. Cut me off, Doc, if I go too wide. Hit me with the beat.
Go for it. No, because as scientists and technology professionals, that's what you're confronted. And whether you're in the government or you're in the private sector, do you want to go into management, or do you want to stay kind of with stay in the field,
right?
On the I don't want to say the ground level, but doing the actual science or programming or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
But and Gabe brought it up. My first team was excellent, right? I give them assignment. My second team sucked. Then I was the only black guy, so people kept going around me because people were cool with my boss. So I just told him, if you're not gonna let me manage them, then you manage them, right? So now I got conflict with my team, right? Because he won't let me manage them, right? So two, is there a lot of politics when you get into that level? Right. And so are you playing a game? My golf game is excellent. They call me Chunky Woods. I get on the golf course. I'm networking. Right. True story. I'm golfing with a 2-star general. I don't know it. So we go back to DOD. We're walking down the hall. He's got an escort. He screams down the hall, Chunky Woods, when we going to golf? Everybody's like, that's General Perry. Do you know him? I like, we golfed for 3 hours yesterday, because it was a golf little extra after work. So you get paired with people, but that's part of networking that people don't understand. So he told me when my project ended, he goes, if you want to work on another project, let me know and I'll put you on there. Right. So that's part of networking and that management level. A lot of times, do you want to play those type of games? Right. A lot of times people get invited to stuff, you might not get invited. Right. So now you're like, why didn't I get invited? Are they trying to get me? Right. That's a whole different level of game. Right now, that game gets played, but sometimes I'm like, dude, especially now I'm 55, I'm old and grumpy. Sometimes I just don't have the stomach for that. But Gabe brought that up is, well, if we're not in those positions and not in those meetings, how can you help other people get into the industry? Right. So that kind of piqued my interest. I was like, okay, Gabe's right. Am I hiding? Am I shirking my duty to the community? Right. So that's the whole things where I thought about it. So long story short, my first team was good. My second team was not good. They were going around me. There was a lot of company politics in there. And it was like, do I want to play this game? I could just be a highly paid consultant, make my 6 figures, go golf, eat very well, and get fat on steak. Right. So what part of that do you want? Right. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't want to stay on my soapbox too long.
No, that's okay. That's okay. This is valuable, because again, it's something that all of us, those of us who do get into the sciences and the technologies, eventually you get confronted with this. Well, what do you want to do? Which career track do you want to take? And I think the management side, I think maybe that's something you have to love, and that's something you really have to want, because as you just described, there are a whole lot of other bells and whistles that come with it.
Well, too, though, is I tell people, and I argue with the young guys, sometimes is you might not have to love it. You just get paid very well. That helps you do other things in life, right? My mother told me a long thing. She just passed away at 91. Young man, you're going to do a lot of stuff in this world you don't like. So I tell people what job, and two is I had a lot of jobs I don't like, but sometimes those jobs are what you need to get to other jobs, right? And sometimes you got to pay your dues. I think people now, I'm gonna make 6 figures. I don't have to get my hands dirty. Sometimes you got to do the dirty work. I get paid well because I do the dirty work on a lot of IT jobs. What is dirty work? Getting up at 2 a.m. to make sure the Indian team are getting their job done and get their requirements right. Trying to feel why we can't build this software right with the integration team, right? So you got to dig you're up there and get in there, right? So, but sometimes you got to pay your dues and do jobs you don't like.
Right. Okay. I'm going to read this comment from Wizard Kelly. He says, I am a senior software engineer. I tried to recruit Black men to my job. None of these dudes ever took me up on my offer. Were these teens? Were these guys fresh out of college? Please elaborate on that, Wizard Kelly. I'm sure Ray's engaging him. Yep, sure enough. Ray says, Wizard Kelly, where were you attempting to recruit Black men into the tech careers? Gabe A says, there are a lot of politics in management. Yep, I see that where I am right now.
Yeah, right. So 2 is, and some of that, I'm just going to touch on that. A lot of it's not racism, but some of it just twins on this. Where you going? Do you golf? What settings are you are? Because, and I tell young guys, when you're the only one, it takes a lot out of you sometimes when you're going into a room and you're the only Black person. A lot of times you feel like, or maybe all the eyes are on you. Then I have young guys, I feel, trying to pick at me or see if I'm worthy to be in the room, right? They start asking me super dumb cybersecurity questions, right? In front of people to see if my skills are where they should be. But I always tell young men is, don't be scared of that, because I'm going to show you how smart I am. I'm going to show you how bright I am. So when I come in the room, I'm stretching because I know what this is going to be about. Don't be scared. This is your time to shine. A lot of people want to get in front of management. This is my time. So I'm going to show you I'm a bad man. Go ahead, Doc.
Okay. Wizard Kelly says, yes, I knew a couple of brothers with backgrounds in electrical engineering or multimedia with web development. I think that he means with a web development specialty, etc. And none of these dudes showed up. He says, being in management is not always the best thing. It depends on the situation. You want to maximize profit with liability.
Facts.
If it does not pay significantly more, then don't increase your liability. I would agree with that. Go ahead.
The only problem with that, though, is with that liability, like you said, in management, I can pick my team and bring people in, whereas a senior person, I cannot. Right. So your personal liability is true, but if we're trying to help the community, I'm not putting that on you, Wizard. I'm just saying, if we talking about community and want to get people in, you get that by being in the room where they talk money and they talk about hiring, right? That's where that gets done. And to be honest, I'm like Wizard. I'm like, yeah, I don't want none of that. I'm just gonna be a highly paid consultant to do my job and go home. I'm going to the highest bidder, but I'm just throwing that out. So we're not in those rooms now, right? We're not making those decisions, and we don't have budgets.
Okay. I'm going to add one more thing here in terms of politics, because I noticed this at my current position. Politics could simply be seeing who's going to lunch together every day.
Oh, 100%.
And I noticed, I don't think anyone from my current position is watching this, but I'm speaking in generalities.
Yeah.
You can see who's buddying up. You can see who's trading information by if you could see who's going to lunch every day, because certain people are going to lunch together every day. Certain groups, certain pairs.
Facts. I was lucky I was in the group. It's the cool kids. I was in the cool kids. I used to go with the CIO to lunch. She used to invite me to lunch because we used to work together. So people were amazed. People were freaking out. She came and sat on my desk. People's heads was picking up over the cube like groundhogs. The thing that I forgot is me and her worked together when she was just a regular project manager. So I always teased I knew her before she had a big desk. So she would come and sit on my desk. We would talk. Then I would forget she was the CIO of the whole company because we were cool. Right. So I know what that pot. I just happen to be on the right side of that for once. So yeah. The people ask me like, why? How are you going to lunch with her? I'm like, dude, I knew we worked together 10 years before that. She invited me to come here and help her.
Okay. See, Ray says one way to find candidates is to check with the career placement offices of HBCUs for students graduating with STEM degrees. That's one good source for recruits.
Facts.
He says, I was just thinking, where is Wizard Kelly located? He says, I'm based out of Canada. I was not trying to find quality Black men. I had enough of them in my circle. The issue was these brothers. I got some spam coming in. The issue was these brothers were content to be underemployed and underpaid for the credential. I mean,
yeah, I think we talked about this is on my channels. I think Wizard Kelly and I'm working on this is imposter syndrome. I think people get nervous when they have to step their game up, especially in when you're in that type of big corporation. Sometimes they're not confident in their skills or their backgrounds or their degrees or their certs. So sometimes they get nervous. So they used to tease me at work because I used to go reach out to Black men and ask them when I see young Black guys, are you okay? What do you need from me? Are you situated? Do you got everything you need to be successful? Right? Because I was surprised of how many people talk about that syndrome, because that's just something imposter syndrome I would never think about. Maybe because I'm old, crusty, and I've been in the game. But I get a lot of young people on my channel specifically bringing that up, especially when you're the only one at your job, right? So am I worthy? Or are people picking on me? Can I handle this type of atmosphere, right? A lot of times it's imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we straight over into HR a little bit.
Facts.
And the workforce, which is important, which is an important part.
I told you, Doc, anywhere you go, I can go with you, Doc.
Okay. Well, let's go back into the nuts and bolts of things. What's happening in the cybersecurity world right now? Is there anything new? Anything?
For me, it's not new because I've been in so long. You got people getting hacked, you got people getting attacked, you got people trying to survive, you got people getting good fines. The same thing is, if you get the skills, you can get in the industry and make a good life. So for me, it's still the same. I do federal compliance, which is HIPAA, stuff like that, to make sure large companies doesn't get hacked. I'm a consultant and work at very large companies. So that's kind of my background. Like I said, I came into this space to help people get in and have these type of conversations. Then the people like Engineering Cannabis, Gabe A's and their Struggle Security, any of those guys, keep it tech. If they need anything from an OG, I'm here to help them. Just shout out to Gabe A. I might have been looking. He said, hey, drop me your resume. I'll run it up the chain. So there's people out here definitely helping you. And I try to teach cloud. I'm teaching an AWS class at 3:00 today. Come through. Like I said, to get those skills so we can get the bag.
Let me ask you. Well, I'm going to read Gabe A's comment here. He says, yeah, I don't play the we're going to see what you know mess. I've had to personally turn up in meetings and expose their attempts.
Facts. Oh, facts. See, Gabe, no, man, they'll try you. And too, that's part of the imposter syndrome. It be slight jabs. So my boss knows. She be telling me calm down because I be embarrassing people. My boss wife, she be like, she call me. I'm like, if they come from me, I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna crush them. Go ahead,
Professor Black Ops. Would that be considered a microaggression or microaggressions?
Oh, definitely.
That are being okay.
Yeah, I had that my whole life. It took me a while to figure it out, but now I take it personally because too is I'm gonna show you how smart I am. I've crushed people in meetings, and my boss was like, "Ooh." I just tell people, yeah, if I didn't know that, I wouldn't deserve to be in this job. So yeah, I love those because I'm going to show you I'm a bad man. But yeah, it happens. And Gabe's he's definitely at a higher rank than me in his company because he's in management. But yeah, he knows, he's used to it. Gabe's stretching, because I always don't. It's gonna be my shirt. I'm about this cyber life. So that's why I study and work on my craft because I'm gonna show you I belong here. Now let's see if you belong here. Because a lot of times everybody done hooked them up. So now it's my turn. So let's go. That's part of my tagline. You see it, let's get it, let's go. So go ahead, Doc. I'm on my soapbox.
Let me ask you this, Professor Black Ops. Is there a professional society for you guys that you guys are in? Is there a cybersecurity?
There is. I don't belong to it. I think Gabe is. There's black risk management. There's a few of them, and I need to do a better job of getting to those societies and help young people. I just been kind of this one man army my whole life, man. So that's kind of what I'm about. I think Gabe is. I let him throw the check. He was in Black Engineering Society. Gabe, he's in those way more than me. I just kind of been this one man wrecking ball since the '80s, man. I'm an old curmudgeon now. I don't play nice with others in my old age. Gabe them can summon me out. You can summon me out. I usually just stay in my office and grind, man. So now I'm gonna let Gabe put those in the chat. He's in that more than me. Like I said, I'm an old curmudgeon now in my life, but there's some out there.
Okay. Wizard Kelly says HR and culture is often the biggest issue for Black men. We have a big issue with Black men credentials. That's a given. What's understated is how many of us have an issue with the social aspect of employment.
What's even
That's
worse than that?
interesting.
What's even worse than that? Because if you listen to young kids, is if you work for a job, you working for a man, you are a slave. I'm like, dude, I got benefits and 401k. What you got? We done flipped it as working a regular job now, 9 to 5. You a sucker. So go ahead. So we done flipped it on this side. It's even worse than that when I talk to the kids. I'm like, oh, you work for the man. I'm like, dude, you got to work for somebody unless you own your own company. I got 401k. I make W-2 so I can make other investments. Right. So let's be real specific about what you're talking about. I've got receipts to what I'm making. Where's your receipts? Right now, I'm not going to disrespect you because you own your company, but you can't crap on me because I'm W-2. So.
Okay. Well, I think what you just spoke to is today there are multiple ways of making money. And I think this generation or these younger generations, they're growing up in that era where they could see there are other ways to make some coin. Now how much can you make? I think that's
But what I tell them too is not I always tell somebody is I'm cool with that, but you got to get skills really to make your own money. Some people can do a content creator, but to get skills, sometimes you work from other people and learn. So we had a discussion. I always tell young kids, go work for a big company to start. Number one, they're going to teach you policies and procedures. They're going to teach you methodologies. They're going to teach you how a big operation. Then you can take that to your small company and run. It's hard to make coin when you have no skills.
That's right.
Right. So that's one of the discussion. I mean, we can talk about the man, but you got to get skills to make money. When I came out of college, I really didn't have any skills. Right. I had some fundamentals, right? But they wasn't skills that I could build for yet.
Okay. So Professor Black Ops, so I'm not gonna hold you all afternoon because you have to do you have your own show coming up and I'm gonna go to a science event today.
Okay.
In general terms, for those unfamiliar with the cybersecurity field, what's a day what's a day in the life like? Like are you monitoring
I know
different
you can. And I'm gonna talk about a couple different domains. Cybersecurity is huge, Doc, right?
Okay.
So there's threat monitoring, threat hunting. I think Gabe's in there. You look for attackers, you try to track trackers, and 2, penetration tests. I'm trying to make sure companies are secure by trying to hack them. Right. I'm in the compliance field where I just make sure from a paperwork perspective, if you're doing HIPAA for a hospital, FISMA, DOD, you got to have paperwork to make sure your system is secure from a compliance standpoint. Right. Then there's blue team, meaning I harden all the computers, lock them down so people like Gabe can't attack them. Right. So cybersecurity is a big domain and there's a lot of different domains in it. Right. So I always go blue team is securing, red team's attacking, purple team's in the middle. Right. I'm securing websites. So I like to break them down in those 3 broad domains. But there's a place. And 2 is a lot of cybersecurity people are introverts, project management, project owners, and running a project in security. You can make a ton of money because most security people can't look you in the eye because they're on the spectrum because they're brilliant. So there's different ways to make money in cybersecurity. We want you to come and get the bag. Once you get in cybersecurity, I think the unemployment rate was 2% once you get to a certain level, right? And you can easily make 6 figures in this game once you put in the work. So I see that at a high level, Doc.
Okay. So most cybersecurity professionals are introverts.
A lot of times, because you know, most science people are introverts. Like that's why they got into a lot of times. You can do what your own project. You can get with a couple people. You know, a lot of they don't really go out. The ones I work with, they don't really want to go out and talk to customers, right? They want to get your requirements and work on it. Or I got this big project. I just want to work on it, right, and just kind of do it. So,
You know, it's funny you should say that because I'm realizing in my current capacity, I'm in regulatory, and that involves, you know, going to meetings,
mhm.
in some instances, chairing meetings.
I do that too with compliance.
But at the end of the day, I would be happy and content just to sit at
Facts,
my desk, work on my project,
facts.
get my deliverable
Facts.
delivered, and then just go on about my day. I don't really care.
But like we talked about though, when you need to go get funding, right, you got to reach out to people, right? When you need to get that money, right, or get those projects to make money, right? That's meeting people, right? So I really make a lot of money just being a buffer to the tech team. Sometimes I take the requirements and take it to them and talk to them, right? And a lot of times business managers yell at those guys. I get in the middle. What didn't get done with your requirements? What did you think get missed? What is the ROI on that? What is the timeline on that, right? I take those hits for the team. All right. So you can make a ton of money just doing that. But I'm that way too. I just get paid money to do that. I'd rather just give me some requirements and build some on AWS and shout out to machine. I want to do some machine learning and some artificial intelligence. But go ahead.
No. Well, as a brief preview, what for those unfamiliar with you, what are you going to be talking about today?
Oh, I'm doing AWS like we talked about. That 800-pound gorilla. That's where to get the bag. And to be honest, is I'm 55. I'm getting in the cloud because I need 10 more years to get to retirement, Doc. So for me, that's the cloud. So I've been doing AWS. So long story short, CloudFront is a caching service. So if you have a website and we're doing a Big Dunbar website, we CloudFront, we can put his material on there. But if he's around the world, we can cache this information in China. We can cache this information in the United States. We can cache it in India. So when they need it, it's super close to its consumers and then it can come back lightning quick. So how would you set that up so Dr. Dunbar could be worldwide and they click on his material and they could get it in milliseconds? They wouldn't have to wait hours because they coming all the way back to US. We're going to push it as close as it can to you as the consumer. So AWS has data centers around the world. So if you're in India looking at Dr. Dunbar stuff, we can spin up a CloudFront website in India so you can get your materials quickly from that. They call it edge computing. That's a whole nother term. So that's edge computing. We're going to put it in the edge closest to the user. That's called AWS CloudFront. That's what we're talking about today. Come and get some of these gems I'm going to be dropping later. Go ahead, Doc.
Okay. Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways from the stream for me, again, being over in the biomedical sciences and regulatory, is knowing what the AWS acronym. I mean, for you guys, it's probably just AWS, Amazon Web Service.
Web Service. Yep. Web
Service. Let's see. Wizard Kelly says, I am full stack. I have a, what does that mean?
He does front end, which is websites, Angular. I think he does the middle, which could be Java or C#, and he does the database. Make sure it's inserted in the database, right? So there's three layers: front end, middleware, and back end database. So he's saying he does the full stack. Shout out. I'm Angular, Java to an Oracle database. I'm old school. I did that for a decade. Shout out to the full stack.
Okay, see, I never would have known that unless we have this discussion.
Yeah, I'm Wizard Kelly. Shut up.
I have a primary full-time employer, and I double dip as a contractor through my corporation. I am senior enough that I can do a good job quickly and do another one on the side. Ray Alexander says, maybe you and those other men could connect with Nesby.
That's
for mentoring. Are there Nesby chapters in Canada? That I don't know that. He says, Ray Alexander, I'm more focused on working my 2 jobs. If I have a brother in my circle who I can bridge in, then I will. If I have a brother at work I can support, I will do that. But otherwise, Wizard Kelly, are you I've never seen you before. I'm always up to talk to folks like me and Professor Black Ops are talking right now. I'd be curious to hear at some point about what you're doing beyond what you shared with us. Thank you for sharing that. And I know also in Canada, you're probably of African or West Indian descent. So I'd love to hear about culturally if that had an impact on where you landed. And I could be wrong. You could be from some other descent, but I'd be curious to hear about that. Constructive consultant says, great topic, Dr. Dunbar and Professor Black Ops. It's always informative and engaging. It's always an informative and engaging discussion. And Wizard Kelly says, Professor Black Ops is spitting facts, getting the AWS certifications, plural, and some complementary certificates in Terraform, Docker, etc., will get you paid. They pad your profile nicely. Okay. When Professor Black Ops comes back, I'm going to ask him about this, and then we could probably move towards wrapping up because he's going live later on. And I think I've exhausted all my questions for him for today. But if you guys have any other questions or comments in the meantime until he comes back, let me know. The article that I read today earlier about quantum computing, it's right here. That's from the Washington Post. For those of you who don't know, I am a writer in addition to being a YouTube content creator. He's back. I'll finish my sales pitch. I have a newsletter. I'm always looking for new names to add to it. It's here. The link is in the description box. There's a 2-paragraph greeting. And there's a subscription button there at the bottom. So when I'm not doing this, doing my day job, I'm usually writing something or publishing something. So this link, the link to that is in the description box, but it's also here in the chat.
I'm back, Doc. Sorry about that.
Okay. We're gonna Wizard Kelly put something in there. I'm gonna ask you about it, then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Let's see. Wizard Kelly says you're spot on, Dr. Dunbar. I think this is about his culture. We have spoke once or twice on Rogers under different. Okay.
But yeah,
and the reason I asked about that is because what that relates back to what me and Professor Black Ops were talking about earlier in terms of the pipeline. And if the pipeline on the front end of our colleges and universities is not big enough, if there are not enough people in the pipeline, then something's happening. Something probably cultural or environmental is happening to prevent that the number of applicants in that pipeline being bigger. What were you going to say?
Highlight the one before the Kelly.
This one. Yes, this is what I was going to ask you about.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So he says, getting the AWS certification. So there are certifications.
I have 4
associated with AWS.
I have 4. Yep, I have 4.
Okay. Can you just kind of break that down a little bit? So there are different. I'm assuming that means there are different aspects of this that you need to be certified on to be able to work on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, shout out to Wizard. And 2, that's what I talked about. That's going to be me, my last 10 years, so I can retire. But AWS is an 800-pound gorilla. So the associate search, they have developer, associate architect, and associate DevOps. Architects designs it. Developer programs it or make sure the development environment set up for the programmers. Then DevOps actually physically builds it. So those are the 3 different domains. So I have 4 AWS certs. I have AWS Cloud Foundation, which is the base one, teaches you the basics. I have associate architect, associate developer. Of course, I'm security. I have the AWS security specialty. They have like 6 or 7 specialties. Security, shout out to Engineering Cannabis. They got data scientists and I think artificial intelligence, networking. So 3 or 4. So once again, I'm a credential guy, so I'm trying to get. I think I'm on 5 certs that I'm getting on in AWS. And the thing he names are different technologies that are in AWS. He had Terraform. They have cloud foundations for building. Docker. That's one thing I'm studying, which is containerization, which is super hot. Docker, or I can't think of the other one right now. So, but yeah, I'm studying Docker as part of it's called DevOps. It's a professional cert. They have 2 professional certs. So one of them is DevOps, where I'm gonna really focus on Docker. But he's right; they get paid. Like the interview I had with AWS, I think was for 365 for a mid-level engineer. So those numbers out there are huge. So shout out to Wizard Kelly. Come check me out. I don't want to gloss too much on doctors. I'm doing a cloud formation at 3 o'clock Eastern time. So come get you some AWS skills, and I'm hoping to do more streams on AWS, because I think that's the next bag. And I think it's something everybody can learn. I wouldn't say easy, but it's a skill you can pick up, and it's used out. And there's a ton of jobs open in AWS in those different domains.
Okay. All right, Professor, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Do you have anything else? Thank you for coming up.
Okay, anytime you want a few people that can summon me in the sphere, I'll come up anytime. You reach out. Like I said, there's people I really like in this sphere. You definitely want to. Gabe, and I tell any of those guys summon me. I'm old, I'm divorced, don't nobody want me. I can usually come. Just reach out to an old guy. I could come on out. Long story short, IT's out here. There's different domains, ton of great channels, yours included. Let's get this bag. Let's get this money. Money's not everything, but what money can't cure, I don't want. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm gonna end it out there. Shout out, come and see us. There's a lot of great people in this space, and we're out here to help. Like I said, when I was out there and they said they were the only one, if you need me in IT, Gabe's out there, just reach out. If I don't know somebody, I can point you to somebody that can give you some help. So that's all I want, Doc. You're not out here alone. I got probably another decade on YouTube. If you need something from the OG, just reach out, man.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Professor Black Ops. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to another event, but if I can peek in on your talk, I'll listen in.
All good. Once again, if you need me, just reach out. Everybody have a great weekend, and 2023 is almost here. That's all I got, Doc. Have a great day.
Yep. All right, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, and I just want to reiterate something Professor Black Ops just said, which was that we're here to help. So one of the reasons that I started this channel was to promote visibility. I don't think there are enough images of us in pop culture and in the mainstream media. So there are individuals who are knowledgeable on pharmacology and toxicology, like myself, or cybersecurity, like Professor Black Ops, and we're working our day-to-day functions. And there's probably things that we can do, and there are probably information gaps that we can help fill in for the generations coming after us. But people don't know where to find us, and people don't know that we exist. So if you have any questions for me about any of this, or for Professor Black Ops, or anybody, you just have to reach out. My credential slide is here. Yeah, it's right there. And I'm going to show my newsletter one more time. I spend a lot of time writing. I'm working on a book. This is my newsletter. It's the Big Words LLC Newsletter. I'm always looking for more names. There is a 2-paragraph greeting, and the subscription button is there at the bottom. You just enter in your email address. I promise I will not give it away to anyone else. The link is below in the description box, but it is also here. And if you want to donate something, my Cash App and PayPal are below in the description box as well. Those are here. And if the algorithm brought you here, please subscribe. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. There is an event going on over in Arlington today, hosted by the Friends of the Arlington, David M. Brown Arlington Planetarium. I think it's Halloween themed. I used to volunteer with that group, so I think I'm going to go over and see what they're doing. I haven't seen them since before the pandemic. So, with that, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for those of you who watched it live. If you're watching on the playback, please like, share, and subscribe. The engagement really, really helps. Science topics are not for an unknown. Science topics are not easy to gain traction with. I'm learning that this is a work in progress, and I appreciate everyone who has supported up to this point. But if you're new, please subscribe and please hit that like button. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Stay safe out there. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Remember, Professor Black Ops is going live in about 2 to 3 hours. I'm going to share that on my community tab when I see him go live. So I'll talk to you the next time, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.